The most powerful force on earth is a human soul on fire. You have a deep ache in your soul for something more, to come alive, to let your passion pour from you like an endless well. When your passion comes alive, the magnificence buried deep inside of you is unleashed. Gifts and talents you never realized surface as your life unfolds like poetry. You can do hard things. I can show you how. This is Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, where I teach you how to heal yourself from the inside out. Hey guys, Erin here. So I wanted to record a little intro to the podcast you're about to listen to, which is a very vulnerable example of me processing trauma that happened to me. That whole week after this incident happened that you're going to hear about, I was unable to make contact with what I was feeling inside. And when I actually realized what was up with me, why I had been snacking more than usual, why I had it took me like 3 or 4 times to actually do a podcast. I had apathy and just feelings that I don't usually have so often anymore. By the time I got around to I realized it had been a couple of days and I was kind of like a scrambled egg on the inside. But I wanted to share this with you because I think it makes it real when you hear someone who does have a lot of tools, who perhaps you've been listening to for tools, perhaps you've even taken one of my trainings or courses or you coach with me, to know that I'm human too. And sometimes things come up that are just overwhelming and really hard for you to just, let me just use the process and go through these steps. Sometimes it's a bit messy. And I certainly have some messy times in my life. So I do get through it, but I just want to clarify that sometimes when I say I feel and then I say a thought, that, wiser me knows that that is a thought indeed and not a feeling. Perhaps this goes without saying, but the language that I use is completely unguarded. It is definitely not coachy. It is, except for the part where I actually go into myself, but I had to create safety and compassion and realize that what happened wasn't my fault. And just that being said, learn and grow from it. So I hope that you enjoy this podcast. And if anything like this has happened to one of my listeners, perhaps it will give you a little bit of comfort knowing that I had to go through it too. And maybe this episode will help you to process. So that's all. I hope that you enjoy and have a great week. Thanks for listening. Namaste. Hey everyone, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin. So last week I had traumatic thing happen to me, and I'm going to talk about it on this podcast, and I'm going to probably process some of it on this podcast. So I just wanted to give that disclaimer, but so something happened. I'll get to it in a moment, but I didn't realize how much it affected me until I started noticing some of my behavior, later on in the week. And I noticed that I was snacking more than usual, and even very obviously not hungry, but just wanting to snack, just having this urge. And that's always a sign for me that something's off, that I'm not dealing with something below the surface. So that was a sign. Been feeling very sensitive and emotional, and there's another sign. This morning I was walking around my neighborhood, just walking around the block. I was just doing some exercises, and then that was sort of like my quote unquote cardio. And there was an older guy who rolled down his window and said something to me. I had my headphones in, and I felt immediately violated, even though I don't know what he said. I took out my headphone and I just, in a very obviously, annoyed voice, was like, can I help you? And he was asking about a yard sale. And I realized that in that moment, my mind had already jumped to, oh my God, he's trying to hit on me. He's catcalling me. I had my headphones in, but, he was smiling really big at me. Oh, and he was just looking for a yard sale, which I had passed. My neighbors were having one down the road, so I just pointed him there, put my headphone back in, and continued on my way. So, so last week, as I have mentioned, I've been getting acupuncture twice a week, and it's really brought me back to life. And I had an unfortunate event happen at my last appointment, and it's going to remain my last appointment. So I showed up to my appointment, and the acupuncturist I've been working with, he's a Vietnamese fellow in St. Pete, and he started off the session saying, "Oh, I had some dreams about you. And, did you feel it? Did you feel me in your dream?" And I was like, no. And he's like, "Oh, I had a dream about you, right?" And I was like, his English wasn't so good. So it's like, okay, yeah, like I want to get treated. So anyways, he always sings in Vietnamese, and he has a recording of himself singing, which he sings to, which I know sounds odd, but originally I found it quite, endearing, because it just, I thought it was, I'm tapping into my voice, and here's this guy very proud of his voice, and it was pleasant enough. So anyways, this appointment, I had 3 appointments prior. This particular appointment, he put me in a smaller room, and, there was another person there, in a different room. So I assume that's why he moved me into the smaller room. And so he came in, and my feet were kind of hanging off of the table, and he, how if the table, if your feet are hanging off and you might brush past someone's toes, this was much different. He kind of smushed his genitals into my feet. And honestly, if I heard that on a podcast, I would probably laugh, it sounds funny. But let me tell you all the other things that happened. And I just thought that was weird. And I was like, "Oh, let me move my feet." And he's like, no, it's okay. I work around. And I just this was weird. Anyways, this is a little difficult for me to talk about. It's very vulnerable. I feel like I'm going to be judged, but I wanted to share it because I bet there's a lot of women that feel the way that I do. So I'm going to continue. Anyways, so he's, read my pulses as he usually would do, and, made me stick out my tongue, which is, typical acupuncture. And then he started needling, and so he had a couple of needles on me, and then he put the packages of needles right on my crotch, undeniably directly on my crotch, and I kind of jumped, and then he put his hand on top of the packages. He said, "Oh no, it's okay." And I didn't know what to do. I had a bunch of needles in me, and I just felt shocked. I thought, "Oh, okay, this is a mistake." He doesn't realize what's happening, of course, right? And so anyways, he keeps going back and forth on the table, continue smushing his crotch and dragging it across my feet a bunch of times. And I'm just kind of in shock, and I'm just very tense, and a part of me is wondering, is this in my head? Maybe this is, he's gosh, I don't know how old, maybe 65, 70. He's a sweet old man, right? This, this is not happening. And so I kept telling myself that this is just in your head. This is just in your head, and he's just trying to do his job. So just, it's okay. Anyways, the treatment continued, and then he kept checking in on me and saying that he was thinking about me and dreaming about me. And then I was like, this has to be a little bit weird. Anyways, so after the treatment, I get up, and, I had given him hugs in the past, and this is part of what I wanted to talk about. After the second appointment, I gave him a hug because literally I felt like he brought me back from the dead. And anyways, the third appointment, gave him a hug. There was, no problem there. And this time I didn't really go for a hug. He kind of went for a hug, and I wish I would have said no, because then he hugged me and he kissed my cheeks a bunch of times, and then I backed up, and then he grabbed my arm and tried to kiss me on the mouth. And I just want to say that sharing this story, I want to say I know there's a lot of women who have had worse experiences than what I have had, complete worse. But then when I shared that with my partner, Matt, he said, that's what a lot of people say who have been in these situations. And I just kind of want to break down why it's such a big deal if you're listening to this and it doesn't seem like a big deal, because to me, I'm very conflicted. There's a lot of emotions inside. I feel like it's my fault because I gave him a hug and maybe I confused him. And that is something that my friends have had to tell me, hey, no, hugging someone does not open the door for all this other behavior. I'm an affectionate person. And so I thought, well, maybe that's my energy that I give off. And maybe that was his weird way of showing affection, which again, my friends had to say, no, Erin, that's inappropriate. And then also the practitioner-client relationship, they're in a place of power. It's vulnerable. I go to him, when I went to him, I was very sick. I'm I guess long COVID, recovering from it. And so I didn't speak up, and it has affected me all week. I went to record a podcast earlier this week, 3 or 4 times, y'all. I tried to record a podcast and I just couldn't. And I just felt frustrated. I felt tired. I felt lethargic. I felt angry. And I I thought that this couldn't be why I feel that way. And I want to say that I was disregarding my feelings, because I'm human, I'm not perfect, and not dealing with the feelings underneath. So it was a, somewhat traumatic experience. And again, there's plenty of women who have had it way worse than I have for years of abuse, molestation from family members. I've coached people on this stuff. And certainly I've had worse experiences than this. And I think, the thing that really gets me is that I did not use my voice in this situation. And a part of me is I should have spoke up. And another part of me is no, that is a sacred relationship. And he should never have done those things. It doesn't say on the waiver, or, I shouldn't have to say hey, don't rub your crotch across my feet. Hey, don't put your needle packages on my crotch. Don't try to kiss me on the mouth after you treat me. And so, yeah, I have a mix of anger. I have a mix of almost apathy, because I feel like I'm going to be judged. I feel like I just want to turn this recording off right now. I feel like people are going to, say it was my fault because I opened up the gate by giving a hug. And so all of these things are floating through my mind, and I'm experiencing feelings through my body. And so I wanted to do a live processing with you all. I meditated for about half an hour just before I clicked this button to record this. And I've decided to fast this morning so that I could actually not snack and actually feel what I'm feeling, so I can actually process it. So being with myself, fighting the urge to shut down, and wanting to go into this discomfort so that I can process it, and so I can move on and I can continue my work of helping others from a space of love and purity. And that I can process these feelings so I can be brave and choose to use my voice next time and use this as a lesson that maybe I could say I wish never happened, but there's plenty of things in life that are uncomfortable that might be here to teach us something. It doesn't mean I would sign up for it again, but what I'm doing now is just making peace with what happened and accepting it. And so I'm breathing, I'm softening my body, and what I'm feeling is some resistance right in my spot, right around the solar plexus, which is, big surprise, my space of personal power. And if I hover closely to that area just with my mind's awareness and just allowing my body to feel what needs to be felt in there, I'm deciphering what it is. It might be fear, some sort of flavor of fear. There's a layer of apathy in there somewhere. There's even a little bit of anger. But I think the most dominating feeling in there that I could pinpoint would be fear. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to allow it to spread through my body. And so I breathe and release resistance and give permission to feel what I need to feel to heal. And so I'm going to let that fear start to expand, warmth through my belly, out through my shoulders and arms, down into my hips, my legs, calves, and feet. Coming back to the original spot and checking in to see if it's a little bit lighter, if it's a little less tense, if it's not quite as concentrated. And it feels like there's actually some movement there. Actually, my stomach just gurgled. And so I'm going to imagine just sort of walking through a hallway and see what's on the other side of fear as I go deeper inside. And I'm breathing into that area to kind of stretch it with my breath a little bit to continue the flow of energy. And what I feel is actually relief. And I feel like some clarity is coming up into my mind. And even a voice is saying it's not your fault, which is nice. And what's coming up now is a feeling of being soothed from the inside, which I think is what I was looking for by snacking. Like an internal voice saying it's not your fault. And hearing it, I heard it from my friends all week, but like believing it, that's the difference. Is I feel like I'm believing it. And I'm feeling some increased energy. It's like I've unblocked something in my body to where the apathy is, I wouldn't say it's completely gone, but it's definitely shrunk. And the satisfaction of feeling heard, I think that's my body communicating like, thank you for hearing me. It feels nice to be heard. Yeah. So now my perspective is a little bit different because I took time to just feel that right now with you live. And it's very loud in my head that it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. And you can use your voice. In that case, it's still not your fault, even though you didn't use your voice. And honestly, I feel such fucking relief. So, I didn't know how that was going to go. So I just kind of did it with you just because it's real, it's authentic, and this is something that's going on in my life. And I wanted to share this for a couple of reasons. One, it's cathartic for me. You know, I didn't use my voice in that moment, which is still not my fault that I didn't, but I'm using my voice now and I'm sharing. And so that is cathartic for me too. I bet there's a lot of women, maybe even some men that are listening to this that were in a similar situation. And maybe you have some unprocessed stuff inside of you, and maybe this podcast will help you. And that, for me, is an amazing detail. And I'm happy to be vulnerable for others if they get some benefit out of it. And then the last one is just kind of spread awareness that the feelings that I had, which were not the most like coach-like, I have all my shit together type feelings, right? Like, I'm going to use the clear formula. Like, I couldn't even fucking grab onto the clear formula. I needed to have quiet. I needed to carve out some time, and I need to feel first. Because now I actually feel like my brain's online, and I feel like I'm in my body again. And so trauma, I just want to say, is I've helped a lot of people process trauma. I've sat with my own self, even though I resisted it this time. I sat my ass down and I did it, didn't I? You were there. It's, sometimes terrible things happen. And the support that you have afterwards definitely makes a difference, for sure. And I think the biggest thing that makes a difference is being able to go into it in whatever way feels safe for you and be able to process it, whether that's feeling it. For me, that does amazing things, or maybe using some methods with either like a qualified coach or therapist or, some other modalities. There's so many. There's even, vibrational therapies where you don't have to talk about it. You can just feel it. So I wanted to share that with you. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you found some relief maybe, or even it was just interesting to you, or endearing. I know this particular episode probably isn't for everyone, and that's okay, because for the people it is for, it means a lot, because I don't think a lot of people might do what I just did, even though it would be lovely if they did. The next thing I want to say is I've had so many people either write to me or just like literally come up to me and look me in the eyes and tell me and thank me for everything I do for my community, whether it be, people who are listening to my podcast who I haven't met, but I know that maybe send me beautiful pictures that I hang up, and one including my most recent one that says Thrive Yoga from Adam. And it's got 2 lions on either side, and I put it right above the tree of life that he sent me, and it's beautiful. And I just want to say a little personal message to him. Like, I'm so bummed that, everything got extended, but, I think you've done so much work in there. It's just another chance to do a little bit more work before you come out and start your new life, which you certainly have acquired a lot of tools to be able to do that. And so keep your chin up, and I'm rooting for you. So thank you for everybody who has reached out. Maybe I needed to hear it, and I appreciate you. And if you do leave reviews now, I signed up for a service to where I can read those reviews because I know there's people who are international who have left me reviews who I'm actually not able to access on iTunes. It's being funny. So I paid some money for a service to be able to show me those wonderful things that you tell me. And just in case you do have questions. To answer one question that I got, as far as online programs, I am starting to open up to the idea of it because I have enrolled in an online program that I enjoyed, and it was interactive enough to where I didn't feel left out, and it was, intimate enough. It was a smaller group. So if I did do online programs, if I had enough response for that, it would be probably smaller groups, because I don't want to lose the intimacy. So, I think that's all for now. Thank you for listening. And, just thanks for all the support, y'all. Have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast and if it's helping you, please consider writing a review. You can go to iTunes or Google Play, go into the search bar and type in Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, scroll down, and you can leave a review. This helps other people to find me as well as bumps us up in the search ratings. Also, this podcast is sponsor-free, so that means we don't receive anything for doing it. If you feel so inclined and this podcast is helping to support you and you want to return the favor and help to support any production costs of the podcast, feel free to give a donation to a Venmo link, Thrive Yoga Fit, or PayPal, Erin at erincoach.com. If you don't have the means, don't worry about it. We're not going anywhere. You're all good. But if you would like to give back, you can give back in those ways. Last thing, we have a coaching certification coming up, and it's 7 days of an intensive work, followed by a 3-month mentorship. You will not find another teacher that's more passionate and dedicated than I am to my students and their learning, and not just their learning, but the application and how they show up in their life. If you've been listening to this podcast and it's had a huge impact on your life, just imagine what it would be like to spend 7 intensive days with me and then a 3-month mentorship. You can check that out at thriveyogafit.com/coach-certification. Again, thriveyogafit.com/coach-certification. Thank you so much. Namaste.